Hey everyone, it's Crawdaddy, your Get Slammed podcast champion. And unfortunately, it's really hard for me, Healy, and the Lumberjake to get together to do a podcast every week. We're trying as hard as we can, but unfortunately it is still kind of hard considering that our real life work schedules and college schedules. So unfortunately, we might not be doing a video or a podcast every week, but in replacement of that, I think it'd be a good idea to maybe start doing some videos of what's going on around WWE and wrestling in general. So, I want to talk about the Superstar Shakeup. Now, the Superstar Shakeup was kind of like a little mini draft or replacement for the draft for 2017. First kind of big swap up between the brands since the brand split happened last July. Now, it kind of started off on an okay note. The Raw got Apollo Crews from Smackdown, and he hasn't really impressed me enough to really care too much, but I do think he has great potential, and maybe he could be a former Intercontinental Champion, or a future Intercontinental Champion, so, maybe that'll get better. Next up, we have The Miz and Maurice. Now, I think this was a good move. The Miz was, kind of growing stale on SmackDown, and, with John Cena going, he kind of needs a new rival. Well, he's on Raw now. Plenty of opportunities to, get in there with maybe Finn Balor down the line. I know Finn Balor is going to have a little rivalry going with somebody else down the line. Maybe have a rivalry with, Kurt Angle as an authority figure, because, he had issues with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon on SmackDown. So that might be something to look out for. That's a decent move. Now, one of the first biggest moves that we had was Dean Ambrose making his way over to the Red Brand as Intercontinental Champion. Now, I think that's an interesting move. I mean, I always thought about the Intercontinental Championship as like a workhorse champion. So I kind of thought it did fit better on SmackDown, but I'm not completely against this move, having Dean Ambrose on Raw, because there's so much potential there to maybe reunite the Shield, even if it's just a one-off, because now you got Rollins, Reigns, and Ambrose all on the same brand. So maybe that'll happen. I mean, Lord knows that's the only way Roman Reigns is ever going to get cheered, is if he's in the Shield. Next move, wasn't too big of a fan of this, but I know they got to have the lower card stars on this too. Kurt Hawkins, I kind of think he's more of just like a comic relief character, and just plain jobber. So fine, you got to have the jobbers. I get it. Next one I thought was great, and the way he made his appearance was just awesome. Bray Wyatt. The only thing I don't agree with Bray Wyatt coming over is he's in the middle of a rivalry right now with Randy Orton for the WWE title. And that's kind of like a big red flag too, because from a booking standpoint, Bray Wyatt is not going to win the WWE title from Randy Orton, because the Universal title is still on Raw. And the way they like to do things, they like to keep things as even as possible. So having both the WWE and Universal title on the same show wouldn't do any good. Honestly, I think that was just, I like the idea of Bray Wyatt on Raw, especially because he could feud with Finn Balor. That's how he made his Raw debut or re-debut. He got on the screen when Finn Balor won his match, which, okay, cool. Because I would not mind seeing, the Demon King against the Eater of Worlds. I think that'd be an awesome rivalry, personally. Next, you have Callisto. I honestly thought this was a great move. The Cruiserweight division's on Raw, and Callisto's a Cruiserweight. This good opportunity for him. But I'll tell you why when I get to SmackDown, why I think it's a little dumb at the same time that they brought Callisto to Raw. Next, Heath Slater and Rhino. Okay. I mean, they weren't going to bring, any of their good tag teams from SmackDown because they only really got 2 good tag teams. The Usos, who are kind of dull in my opinion, but they're the tag team champions. And then American Alpha, which again, if they brought one of those guys over, that would just, kill the tag division over on SmackDown. Next, you had Alexa Bliss and Mickie James, who both came over. Cool, this gives, Alexa and Mickie James kind of a new set of women to rival with, including Sasha Banks, Bayley, Nia Jax, Emma. I think it's honestly, that was a good move. And announced on WWE.com later after the Superstar shakeup, Byron Saxton is going to SmackDown and David Otunga is coming to Raw. I've never been too big of a fan of Byron Saxton, but I liked him just a little bit better than David Otunga, because David Otunga is kind of an idiot, in my personal opinion. Not saying that he's, for all I know, that just could be, the script writing that they have for him and whatnot, but, I've always thought Byron Saxton was just a little bit better than David Otunga, but what are you going to do? Anyway, speaking of which, I heard David Otunga is filming a movie right now, so apparently he's not even going to be on, he's not going to debut on Raw for at least 6 weeks, is what I've heard, so don't know what they're going to do to fill that spot, if Byron's just going to do double duty, or if they're going to, bring maybe Nigel McGuinness up. If Nigel McGuinness comes to the main roster right now, David Otunga's never coming back, because Nigel McGuinness is pretty good, except when he mentions Ring of Honor on NXT show. That wasn't too smart, but, that, or maybe they'll have Jerry Lawler fill in. That could happen too. Also know Jim Ross signed a contract. But, I think Jim Ross works better as play-by-play, and obviously they're not going to take that away from Michael Cole. So, honestly, I'm guessing it's either going to be Jerry Lawler or Saxon's probably going to pull double duty. Moving over to SmackDown Live, their very first person that was picked up was announced on WWE social media, Jinder Mahal. I did see this move coming because there was a little bit of a spark and a rivalry kind of starting between Jinder Mahal and Mojo Rawley at the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So, good move, can at least keep Jinder and Mojo a little relevant as you can be in the lower mid-card. Next, huge move. Kevin Owens to SmackDown. Kevin Owens obviously bringing the United States Championship over. Honestly, great move. I think Owens would have done better on SmackDown to begin with anyway. Of course, then we wouldn't have gotten the awesome Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens thing that they had going on for, the better part of the last half of 2016. So, but now I think is a perfect move. But they also, Daniel Bryan also announced a stipulation that if Chris Jericho wins, he will come to SmackDown instead of Owens. But with Chris Jericho going on his Fozzy tour, that's probably not going to happen. Kevin Owens is probably going to stay on SmackDown. Next was, kind of disagreed with it personally, Sami Zayn. Now, I think Sami Zayn will definitely be better utilized on SmackDown than he was on Raw. The thing I don't agree with is the fact that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they keep following each other. And it's, as good as their rivalry is, I honestly think that, if they started building other rivalries on separate shows and then maybe bring them together, for another match down the future, like an interpromotional match, it would have been great. But again, they're on the same brand. Then Sami Zayn, there was a little segment on SmackDown. Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, and AJ Styles. Which, by the way, I think AJ Styles is slowly turning face. He's right now probably a tweener. In the eyes of WWE, obviously everybody wants him to be a face. But there was a little segment of them and Daniel Bryan made a match, triple threat match, to determine who will be the number one contender for the United States Championship after Payback. And AJ Styles won that match. So I honestly think that's a good move. What I like what they're doing more recently with like the Intercontinental, well, not so much the Intercontinental, because Dean Ambrose has only defended it like twice since he's won it in like 3 months ago. But what they're doing with the United States Championship, they're making it more relevant, because they got stars like Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Chris Jericho. They're all going after this belt. And, and like 5 years ago, that belt didn't really mean anything. That championship didn't really mean anything. So I kind of like what they're going with that. And like I said, AJ Styles is the new number one contender. And obviously, once Kevin Owens retains, I honestly think that AJ Styles will be the face in that rivalry, which is good. Next, moved over to SmackDown, was tag team. And when I first heard this tag team announced, I was kind of bummed out because I was thinking, oh crap, now another tag team's not going to get drafted. But they still did. But we'll get to that in a moment. The Shining Stars, Primo and Epico. Kind of a team that didn't really make a difference on Raw. Kind of these goofy, timeshare salesmen for Puerto Rico. But they came on to SmackDown with a bang. Attacking American Alpha. Definitely cool. We'll see what they do with them. But, I mean, honestly, it's Primo and Epico. They haven't really been relevant since before they were the Los Matadores. So, we'll see. Next, we actually had a return, not necessarily a draft. Tamina Snuka. She was brought in to help the kind of floundering SmackDown women's division, since Alexa Bliss and Mickie James went to Raw. That kind of gutted their women's roster. Okay, she's been cleared for a while now, and this gives her a good opportunity to see what she can do. Then, and I love how Shane McMahon did this when he announced Tamina as a second generation star. Father was huge, and everybody's like, okay, I think I know where you're going with this. And then they announced Tamina, and then Shane McMahon said, did you think I meant somebody else? Well, I'm not done yet. And then he introduced Charlotte Flair coming over to SmackDown, the 4-time Raw Women's Champion. Now maybe she'll be the first one to hold both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship. Actually, she'd probably be the first to hold Divas Raw and SmackDown Championship at one time. So, we'll see what she does. And I think it's really good that she moved away from Sasha Banks and Bayley, because honestly, those rivalries were getting a little stale. And having Charlotte, getting some opportunities against Naomi and Carmella and maybe Nikki Bella. I know she's going to be gone for a while. Maybe she might be done altogether. But, the bottom line is this gives Charlotte an opportunity to get more opportunities against other female competitors. Next one to move to SmackDown. Now, this is why I said the Callisto thing coming to Raw was kind of a downside, because they brought Sin Cara back to SmackDown. Honestly, I bad move. I mean, they should have left Sin Cara and Callisto on the same show. Now, I know Sin Cara has gotten into some trouble on the Raw side of things, backstage, getting into fights and whatnot. But the reason why I think they should have left them together, well, for one, they're both cruiserweights. Two, they could have easily put them back together and had another team, bring out the Lucha Dragons. Or they could have had a rivalry against each other. Imagine that, Callisto versus Sin Cara. I think that would be a hell of a good rivalry, personally. Next, making his way over to SmackDown, Rusev. He's currently out of action. Good move, I think, because, again, with SmackDown being the land of opportunity, quote unquote, let's give Rusev, a time to shine, because, the crowd is, getting behind him. They love Rusev, and they did draft him separate from the person they drafted next, which was Lana, which I thought was interesting. So this could be Lana's opportunity to, make it on her own in the women's division, maybe even get a shot at SmackDown Women's Gold, and we'll see. I mean, that's definitely a cool thing they got going. And lastly, so glad they decided to do this. They're bringing over the New Day to SmackDown. Honestly, they've done all they could do on Raw, and now with the Raw Tag Team division being enormous with Enzo and Cass, Gallows and Anderson, the newly returned Hardy Boys, and yeah, I mean, honestly, this having the New Day coming over to SmackDown, they could easily get into a rivalry with the Usos and then pick up the SmackDown Tag Team Gold. That'd be awesome. So. Other things to happen. Also, there was one NXT call up this week. Elias Sampson. I'm sorry, I don't watch NXT much, so if I said his name wrong, I apologize. He came out, the Drifter, as he's called. So, always cool when they bring up people from NXT as long as they use them right. So, we'll see how big of an impact he makes on Raw. Other than that. The WWE title match was also announced for WWE Payback. Guessing because the Universal title won't be on the line at Payback because, Brock Lesnar works a limited schedule. So Randy Orton will be facing the newly drafted over to Raw, Bray Wyatt. And apparently if Wyatt wins, he will, bring the WWE title to Raw. But I don't see it happening because, they ain't going to have two of their major titles on the same show. Honestly, it was an okay draft. It was definitely a mini draft. I've said, I was talking with Jake the other day, and honestly, this wasn't my favorite version of the draft because this was just basically trades back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. Honestly, I loved what they did in 2004, and they actually had the draft lottery. They picked the, balls out and they read the names. I thought that was a cool concept. I thought maybe they should bring that back, or even what they did between 2007 to 2011, where if they had Raw and SmackDown superstars facing against each other and whichever brand won got a draft pick, that was also a good way to do it. But yeah, just some food for the thought, WWE, if you're watching this video. But yeah, tell me what you guys thought of this 2017 WWE Superstar Shakeup, and tell me how horrible you thought the name was in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, and like us on Facebook at GetSlamPod, also on Twitter at GetSlamPod. My name is Crawdaddy, your Get Slammed Wrestling Podcast Champion, and I will see you next time.